As one exits St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican and goes outside the big bronze doors in the portico, on the top there is a mosaic. I think it's by Giotto, but I don't know. It's by some famous artist. And it's a mosaic of this very scene from the Gospel of Matthew. In it you see the boat with the apostles in it, the waves tossing it about, Jesus a little distance away, and Peter in the water with his hand outstretched towards the Lord. I believe the mosaic is called La Navicella, the little boat, and refers to the church, which is called the bark of Peter or the boat of Peter. It is indeed a beautiful image of the life of the church and the life of the Christian. Notice a few things that are going on in there's a lot of things going on in today's gospel. This is just after Jesus has miraculously fed the thousands of people there. Notice he tells the apostles to go in the boat, and he himself stays behind and then goes up to the mountain to pray. It's kind of like he's setting them up almost. Something similar happens in the Gospel of John when the apostles get news that Jesus' good friend Lazarus is dying. They say, "Lord, let us go. Lazarus is sick." And Jesus says, "No, I'm going to wait." And he waits, I think, 2 days. He's setting up something here for the disciples to experience. Now the storm starts, and it says in the 4th watch of the night. I think that's like 3 or 4 in the morning. And they've been out pretty much all evening through the night, terrified as the wave and the storm kind of starts tossing the boat around. And in the 4th watch of the night, he comes to them. But the first appearance of Jesus in the middle of their storm, their darkness, is not one of comfort or consolation, it's one of terror. He comes as this ghostly figure emanating light, and they cry out in fear, it is a ghost. And it is only when they hear his voice, "Take courage, it is I, do not be afraid," that they start to figure out what's going on. It doesn't take much for us to translate this to our lives. We don't have to go looking for storms. There's all kinds of things in our own lives that are going on, whether it be in our families, in our relationships, in our inability to decide what we want to do with our lives, whether it be something about economic hardship or the loss of a job or insecurity, whether it be serious illness or death of a loved one. In so many ways, we are like these little disciples in a boat being tossed about at the mercy of the circumstances. The ancients called it fate. They personified it. Yet Jesus says to us today, "Take courage. It is I. Do not be afraid." Let's think for a second of our brothers and sisters in Iraq. You've heard the news, you've seen the horrific news reports. This militant organization that calls itself the Islamic State. They have overrun northern Iraq. They have expelled Christians from places where they have lived for nearly 1,800 years. They have torn down monasteries and churches and burnt artifacts, and they have started systematically killing Christians and other religious minorities, including the horrific, ghastly thing of beheading children and babies in public squares, and then gloating about it and putting these videos on the internet. It's demonic, it's diabolical. In the middle of this storm, we can identify with the Christians, our brothers and sisters in Iraq, who are saying, "Lord, where are you in the middle of this darkness?" We have to remind ourselves, no matter how dark things get, that the Lord is in charge, even though it sometimes seems like he's gone on a vacation. Sometimes things we can see how he has worked and how he has made this particular adversity actually bring something good, either to us or to others. Sometimes it's easy to see that. At other times, we're just completely lost. We have no idea what's going on. We don't know why this is happening. And we cry out. We cry out. And the Lord tells us, "Take courage. It is I. Do not be afraid. This is the Christian life. We are in a valley of tears. But what it seems that is more important to the Lord is not our comfort or our immediate physical safety, even though those are good things, but there are times when even through the permission of bad things happening, He never causes them, He permits them. He wishes for us to turn more and more to Him. He is, in this episode, creating faith and trust in the hearts of His disciples. And He wishes that kind of childlike, complete surrender and turning to our loving Father in heaven in the middle of the storms of life. On hearing the Lord's voice, Peter does something very, very strange. He gets out of the boat. He gets out of the place of relative security and starts walking towards Jesus. If it is you, Lord, command me to come to you on the water. And he starts walking. And it's kind of like those, sometimes it reminds me of that scene from the cartoon, Coyote runs off the cliff and he keeps going until he looks down and then it's like, whoa. Jesus is fine. Peter is fine as long as he is looking at the Lord. But as soon as he pays attention to what's going on, to the storms, the waves, the wind, he falters and he starts sinking. And he cries out, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretches out his hand and catches Peter. This is, my brothers and sisters, a scene for the church, for the life of the church. Our life in this valley of exile is not smooth sailing like a cruise ship. It is like this little boat that is tossed about with all kinds of things that are opposed to her. Whether it be explicit, whether it be implicit, whether it be within us. The fault line of good and evil that passes through each and every one of our hearts. The security that we have, the rock, Peter, on whom we rely, is a rock that is walking on water, always looking at Jesus. Always looking at Jesus and grasping for his hand. It is not a security that comes from saying, okay, he's there, I can kind of rely on that and kind of go off and do my own thing. It is this always risky undertaking of walking on the water, keeping our gaze fixed on the face of Jesus and on his voice. And as that first reading tells us, more often than not, the voice of God comes in that quiet, small murmur or whisper, and not in the dramatic events. Some dramatic events, yes. The Lord uses earthquakes and fire and lightning when he reveals the law to Moses. He's not opposed to that. But most of the time, in that quiet, small whisper, that place of complete trust and submission in our heart, where we say, I can't do this. I need you, Lord. In this Mass, let us ask the Lord to give us, to deepen our faith, that kind of trust in him. Let us look at our lives and look around and examine our lives and see, where are the waves? Where are the storms? In what way is my faith being battered? Is it being tested? And let us turn away from the voices that would have us drown, but look only at Jesus, at his word, in the scriptures, in the tradition of the church, in the teaching of the church, and in that small, quiet voice, that place of prayer, where he speaks to us if we are in his good graces. The Lord is indeed in charge no matter how dark the circumstances are. Let us ask for the grace to deepen our faith, to deepen our hope in him, but most of all, to love him above all things and our neighbor as ourselves. Amen.